I'm holding here one of the most astounding immersive audio releases that I've ever come across. It has simply opened my mind and brought me immense enjoyment and pleasure. And I want each and every person out there who loves immersive audio to have this in their collection and to play this. It's available on Blu-ray. This is a CD Blu-ray package. It's available on download, immersiveaudioalbum.com, and probably streaming as well.
It is.
So it's widely available. This is not only an audio experience, it's a cinematic experience. And so I'm here with the man who created it and made it happen. This is Justin Gray, a musician, songwriter, producer, and probably much more. We're going to get his thoughts on his very own creation.
Thank you. And I really appreciate the kind words. And I love seeing someone, hold the physical copy because I too am outside of being the things that you said as a producer, a composer, as a mixer and mastering engineer. I'm also an audiophile. I have an awesome Blu-ray collection, and I love to also get a chance to just sit and listen and experience. So immersed is a reflection, I guess, of how I imagine music. And really, when we go into what brought me into the world of immersive audio to begin with, as a professional, I do a lot of mixing in the music world for artists around the world and labels, and what I like to call spatial remixing is, reimagining music that was conceived in a two-channel format, stereo, which is just music to all of us, and remixing those records and reimagining them. But in this, through all of that, I'm always imagining, what and how does space relate to music? And on a personal level, as a composer and as a bassist and as a producer, I have been writing this music for quite some time, and drawing a lot of influence from music in my own experience, but also music that I've worked on. And all of the times that I've got to create that three-dimensional puzzle has taught me a lot about my relationship with how space and music can combine. And so what this really is music that was composed just for this. That means that it's not the only factor, but it means that thinking about where the instruments are around you as a listener is at the very core of how I imagined the music, why I wrote the music, how those parts exist. And so that's, from a technical standpoint, but I like, when we were just before we started this meeting, you reminding both of us, like there's the technical and then there's the art. And I think for me, this has been a journey where both of those are just constantly balancing each other and one is pushing the other. And really at the end of the day, it is music. And so regardless of how we hear it, whether it's the CD and it's in stereo, or whether someone has a sweet immersive system, 714 or 916, or a 5.1 system or a quad system, I mean, however they're experiencing the music, at the end of the day, it is the music that matters. It's the performances, it's the compositions, it's the sort of emotional journey of that. So yeah, it really is a combination of my passion for music as a whole, and combining all of the elements that are a part of this, and then really using the technology as a starting point to be able to explore space and its relationship to it.
So let's talk about the elements of this album and just what it might have taken for you to bring it all together. Not only do you have the planning, you got the writing, you've got the arranging, you've also got almost 40 guest musicians on this album. Were they all recorded at certain studios? Was it virtual? Like some of them are on the cinematic version of this album. You can see their performance intermingled with some performance art like sand drawing from this pendulum machine and dancers and stuff. So this is it is about the music. That's very clear. It's very clear that somebody who is deeply in love with music made this album. But there's also that visual aspect and the filming of it and just bringing together all these musicians. Like, what was it like to just produce this project?
Yeah. Epic is the only word that is truly appropriate. Yeah, there are 38 artists in total, so 35 musicians and three dancers. Now, these folks are all people who are very near and dear to me. So I've either worked with them as a bassist or as a producer or as a mix engineer, or, it's very much a Toronto-based project in the sense that we have a really world-class music community here from drawing from people from around the world who are all at such a high level. And I wrote this music with those folks in mind. So really for me, the scheduling and the ability to actually get all those people to be available in the time frame that I needed is truly the hardest part of all. I can write the music, I can produce the music, I can mix the music. At least I have control over that. But people's schedules, oh my goodness, is it not easy? And so,
Congratulations on introducing me to some instruments I never had heard of, let alone heard. I had to go looking through your credits.
right, awesome.
This album is just packed with different kinds of influence from around the world. Can you talk to us about just that kind of breadth that you've gained and how you've gained that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a musician, as I said, I've kind of worked with all these folks in different capacities. I have, as a bassist, studied and been a part of a number of musical traditions. Jazz is definitely home. Classical music and orchestral music is part of my training as a composer. I've lived in India and studied Indian music for a significant period of time, and then have played it over the last 20 years, traditional North and South Indian classical music. I actually lived in Calcutta. So the instrument called the bass vina, which I play on song 3, Repose, and song 7, that's an instrument I designed specifically for that purpose. So, as a result of that kind of musical breadth, I've been able to work with all these folks, whether it's their own records or my own records or combinations of bands that I've played in or produced over the years. And so, yeah, bringing all those folks together. A question that you had asked is like, how are they in one studio? In order to make a record sound this way, it needed to be recorded in a gorgeous studio because the very core of the way it's recorded is that every layer is recorded with an approach that is serving the immersive mix. And that means setting up the microphones in ways that rather than having to use reverb later on, I actually already built the structure with microphones in a room to already have the reflections for everything based on where they're supposed to be.
Now, did you get Morten Lindberg's help with that? Where does he come into the picture?
Great question. So Morten is a inspiration to me from, even prior to Atmos and all that, just as one of my favorite producers and recording engineers of all time.
Same.
His approach to multi-channel capture has changed the entire industry's approach to how we record music. There's a couple other folks as well, who are there, but Morten certainly is someone who led that charge with beautiful productions. And so him and I have connected over the years through our work. And I expressed to him what I was going to do with this record and the intent of not making classical music. It's not classical music, but wanting to use the approach of really capturing things immersively at the source. So Morten, from a recording standpoint, no, like I was in charge of figuring out how to record every layer and working with the recording engineers on this project. But Morten came in at the mix stage. And what that was is when I was mixing, it was such an honor to be able to send him the mixes and just say, Morten, tell me what you hear. Because as much as his gift is in his skill as a recording engineer and as a producer, his ears are what to me are the most valuable of all. And it's that when he listens on a very, very deep level. And I knew that I trusted his opinion. So when he was describing the way something felt or a certain kind of, he knew that I wanted to create this truly kind of congruent experience despite how many instruments and despite all the production, and was able to pinpoint some really special little things that we kind of tweaked to get the mixes where they are.
I cover his work through 2L on this channel as often as possible, and I've even done a deep dive on the 2L signal chain. So for those interested, go check that out sometime when you can.
Absolutely.
So, talking more about the production of this album, I'm particularly interested in the immersive audio workflow. So, if you could go from, tracking all the way through mastering to Atmos and Auro 3D, What is that workflow like? What is that signal flow like? Can you
Yep.
describe that for us?
So at the very beginning, we're recording everything at 96K. Again, it's all about the microphones, the room, the placement. That's all being recorded to Pro Tools. So it's at the studio, actually at the college where I'm a professor, Humber College. Absolutely gorgeous place. One point to kind of workflow wise is in order to achieve the way this record sounds, and in order to achieve the video the way that we see it, most people are actually recorded separately. And so even though the video kind of alludes to this never-ending studio where somehow there's five cameras on every person and everyone's perfectly lit and all of that, uh, I ended up working with a facility that I liked the sound of and then working all of the visual aspect around that. So it was very hard to capture. And every single video performance you see are live takes. There's no faking of anything in the video. So it's 100% that for over 35 days of recording, the videographer and co-director Michael Fisher is there with his team capturing every take because it's improvised music. So you just have to capture everything. So once the audio is recorded into Pro Tools, again, over many, many days, we were also listening in 914 in the recording studio because to me that was very important for not only myself as a producer, but for the artist to get to come in, listen to it, experience it, and then go back out and record with that spatial creativity in mind. Then, when that's all done, editing begins. Editing is epic on a record like this. There are some songs that have over 1,000 live tracks just because of the microphone count for certain instruments gets really, really high. So I work with my assistant Andrew Chung and we edit the whole record. Then mixing starts. I'm in Atmos, so I'm working in Pro Tools and I'm mixing. Now, a lot of the mixing in terms of positionality is already done at the source. Like I said, it was recorded so that when the brass is behind you, I've already recorded them there. They were there from the very beginning. So I just mix and mix and mix. And, it's just listening, adjusting, listening, adjusting. I definitely produced things. I added effect. There was no rules with this, but I'm certainly working with a lot of acoustic instruments. So that's really, the microphones are the most important, the capture, but then also, you know, so then once that's done, the Atmos is finished to me. I send it to Michael Romanowski, who's the mastering engineer. He masters the project in Atmos, at which point now we're sitting on this kind of full length 96K Atmos file. From there, we create everything for streaming. We create the high resolution True HD files for Blu-ray, for immersive audio album. The 96K files can also then be used to use the 714 to author the Auro-3D files, which is done by Stefan Bach at Ian Records. This record's out with them at Ian. And to me, Pure Audio Blu-ray, it is still, and your listeners will know this, it is the only way, or there's one other variation, but it is the prime way to experience the record in full lossless Dolby Atmos and or Auro 3D, so immersive as it was intended, up to 916, because actually I composed the music with 916 in mind. Of course, it folds nicely to other formats as well, um, and experience the video at the same time. Because right now, unless it goes on something like Netflix or something, Disney Plus or something along those lines, to pair the video and the immersive audio is not really a thing. We did also achieve it on immersiveaudioalbum.com. Someone can buy the deluxe package, and that will include the video and, of course, the True HD, etc. So that was a nice surprise and a reminder that can be done. But even if it is on a streaming service in the future, it will be lossy, right? It'll be the DD plus JOCK format, not the True HD. So yeah, that's kind of the whole workflow in a quick version. Of course, there's a million little details along the way. The one other one is that there's a full cinema version of this record, I did a dedicated remix for the movie theater. From the moment I started writing this music, I imagined sitting right here, the day when I was going to get to bring the Atmos mixes of the record and the picture and do the mix for cinema. I think from the very start, I always dreamed in my mind, and even when I was mixing in my studio, of how this would come to life in a movie theater. Because we've done quite a few screenings around the world, and there are more coming up, of the record actually in a movie theater, because that's a great way to experience immersive as well as, of course, the visuals.
What kind of emotional experience do you get through this music, and what kind of impact have you intended for the viewers and listeners of this album?
That's a great question. I think that the emotional impact and the feeling is that feeling of immersion, I think, is sometimes best associated with, as human beings, is diving into a pool or a lake, right, where we're completely surrounded in something. But at the same time, for anyone who likes swimming, like once you're underwater, the water kind of disappears, other than the fact that you're holding your breath. You know what I mean? You're floating there and you're completely enveloped in it, but it also is abstract again because you're not seeing the water. It just is now your environment. And we could think the same about, let's say, just being in the world around us. And that's the feeling that I'd like is I'd like someone to be able to play the music and not notice necessarily. I don't want them to be like, "Oh, there's a tabla over there," or "There's a string section over there." I just want you to be completely inside this music, but the perspective that's different is that it's composed so that you get to be at the center of the ensemble, literally playing in toward you, which is actually a surreal experience. It's not something that could exist really in nature. You know what I mean? Like to hire this band, like 40 people to play in a circle in toward you. I mean, even socially, it'd be a bit awkward, even if we did somehow manage to pull it off. Um, but it gives that experience, and then the visuals is there to anchor us to what's happening. And I do think that there's a world, and I know a lot of folks who also enjoy like the second time, third time they do the record, they turn off the visuals just so that they totally get into the sonics, and I appreciate that approach as well. But I think for folks who don't know what these instruments are and reconnecting with the absolute sheer beauty of just a musician playing at the level that they do, right? Like I never told the musicians what to wear. I told them they'd be on camera, so everyone showed up looking half decent. But like it wasn't about it's not about that. It's not a music video. It's like let's just capture the beauty of you doing what you're doing, which is making the music. And of course, then the cinematography is the lighting and the angles and the cutting and the editing to kind of create a captivating experience. So the feeling of immersion is that overall sensation of just being completely enveloped by something. And that's kind of what I'd like the emotional impact to be.
You've worked across so many different areas: music, technology, education. Do you view Immersed more as a culmination of these experiences, or maybe a launch pad into something new, or both? Where does this lie in your career?
I would say that it is both. There's no doubt that it is a culmination of my life experiences. It is musically. The compositions all reach into areas of my own musical interests and areas of experience and expertise, whether that be again jazz or orchestral or Indian music or fusion music. Again, if someone looks into my own catalog or bands I've played in, they're going to find that I've worked in those areas a lot. Technically, this is absolutely a culmination of my experience, both as a producer and mixer, but also as someone trying to push the boundaries of what's possible within the format. Um, and then, and so, and honestly, it feels almost biographical to a certain degree because of also the folks who are involved. It's kind of like this big family of people, especially for people who know me and my relationship with all of them. It's like, oh, like my brother is the drummer, Derek Gray, is an example. Like it really is John and Andrew Kay, the saxophonists and the ones who play the Himalayan bowls. Like we traveled to India. I went to school with most of these folks 20, 25 years ago. Like it's long-term relationships here. And so that's the culmination side. But the launch pad side is I really do think that there's a significant amount of music and creativity out there that is waiting for the opportunity to use this technological landscape to help it be realized. And I am very much passionate about continuing to be a part of helping people do that.
I want to ask you a two-parted question now. The first is, can you tell us your story from just getting into music, not knowing anything about engineering or tracking or anything like that, to becoming, Atmos engineer, among other things? And then also, I want to get your perspective on where you see the immersive audio industry leading and the artistry as well. Not just the industry, but just where do you see it as an art heading from here?
Okay, I'll do them in order. We might, we'll end one and go to the other because those are two awesome and big questions. Uh, I start playing music, like passionately, as a bassist in a Rage Against the Machine cover band. So I literally joined the band. Bass was available. There was already two guitarists and a drummer, and I wasn't going to be the singer. So I learned to play bass so that I could play that music. That same band, when we were in high school, we were like just obsessed, practicing every day. We wrote tons of music, and I've thought back to it as like we were writing this kind of like prog rock funk magnus opus kind of like 25-minute songs, even when I was like in like grade like 13 and 14 years old. That was like just what we did on the weekends, and it seems to have stuck with me. Your Pink Floyd poster behind you. I mean, my dad is and mom are both, and I see your Zeppelin as well. It's like that's my upbringing. That's the music that my parents love. My dad is an audiophile within reason. My mom too. Great. We always had better speakers and better turntables and amplifiers than televisions in the house. So
And talking
as
about 20 plus minute epics plus Toronto, my favorite band happens to be Rush, which,
there we go.
yeah, viewers of this channel know that full well.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually I mastered Envy of None, which is Alex Lyson's project that you might, and then my friend Alex Gamble, who was the recording engineer with me on this project, was the mixer of that project.
I've got the vinyl of their debut and the Blu-ray of their second album. I hope they'll do the debut in Atmos as well.
Awesome. So anyways, Rush, absolutely, like, across the board, all of that. Um, then jazz comes along and really takes over for me for a long period of time. I went to school, studied it formally. I really went into, like, I'd say, identifying as a jazz musician and taking that as the core of my like sort of post-secondary training. Then I started studying Indian music. I traveled to India. I lived there for a while, as I said, and that combination of sort of, my roots as like rock and R&B music, and then jazz music, and then Indian and world music. That combination, finally, by my mid-20s, is like, this is who I am as a musician. This is what I can offer professionally, and that's taken me around the world playing bass, touring. But the thing is that the production side was always there for me. Even like in late high school and university, I was walking around with a laptop and my Pro Tools rig, just recording stuff and wanting to be involved. And as soon as, I'm kind of right of that generation that like the technology became accessible. So even though I didn't own a large format studio, I could be working on stuff legitimately. So I built a studio in and around that same time, mid 20s, and kind of kept that side building. And so the same projects I'd play bass in, I would then produce the record, and then I'd mix the record. And eventually I did build a mastering studio because I found that mastering and me got along. I just really love thinking about the music at that level of detail. And then finally, the trying to keep it to a good pace here, but the immersive side. I just, as an audiophile, I love music in surround. I love films. I like going to the movie theaters. I've always enjoyed it since the first moment I was aware of it. A box set that kind of changed my life is the Lord of the Rings DVDs, which were the Howard Shore scores, just the music from the Air Studios and Abbey Road, just the 5.1 recordings. Soon as I'd heard that in 5.1, I set up 5.1 in my studio, and just my collection kept growing. I kept listening, obviously mostly classical music, minus like some of the big remixes of some of those great 70s records. Um, and I wanted to be involved. I just wanted to find ways of being involved in making music as a producer, as an artist, whatever it meant in surround. And so I was very, like, I guess my finger was on the pulse of the industry. And as soon as I was aware of Atmos, which is through the film side, because they started doing it in about 2012, I was very much like, okay, this can work for music. So by about 2015, I'd already set everything up to be able to do it. And this is prior to Atmos even working for us as engineers. And I was in touch with Dolby, like, hey, I'm going to do this. Is it ready? And they're like, no, but you're close and it's going to be ready. So that's led me into, I guess my passion for it and my love for it and my skills I've mixed thousands of songs in Atmos, also Sony 360. Um, and, and then wanting to make my own music. And it is just like bringing all of that stuff together and being like, cool, I love working on everyone else's music. I'm going to do it later today. That's my job. But passionately, as like, I got to make this.
Justin, I want to thank you for expanding what the meaning of immersive art can be, and for helping all of us get immersed in your world of music. It certainly is a beautiful world. It's got some sounds that I'm just discovering for the first time. It is an immaculate, immersive mix. It's just expertly played. It's gorgeously filmed. This is obviously a labor of love. I wonder what is coming for you in the future. Do you see yourself like matching this achievement at some point or just kind of going in a different direction? What's next for you?
Yeah, it's great. And I think that leads to the other question, which was part two, is where does this all go? Where does immersive go? Um, I absolutely, I think that if the muse appears and when I'm ready to do it, I'm not writing more music is always on the table, and if that music is there and I'm passionate about it, I will create it. I won't see it as a challenge to beat anything. It's like I'll just make it because it's meaningful to me. And I don't have it in me to not do it at this level. So I think at that point it would just be again finding what the appropriate way to pair the art and the technology will be. But I really do think that the next step here for immersive art is to be getting down to that creation level. I think that remixing of records is always valuable. I think that we can really bring a certain love and excitement to all of our previously recorded catalog, or even newly, frontline material. I'm mixing songs that are released in Atmos and stereo on the same day. But I do really want to be getting connected with folks who that this is a part of their creativity. They may not even know it yet, or they might just not have all of the skill sets developed to be able to facilitate it. And so, as a producer, as an engineer, I'm pumped to help some other people realize some stuff. And then what they'll do is that their creativity is going to add another thing that's going to take it over the top in their own unique way. I really do think that immersive installations, film, bringing the movie theaters involved, like they're really great practical ways for people to have immersive listening experiences without the crazy cost of building systems. So I think that's that. And then I'm also, I really just believe that if you put energy into the world, like something's going to appear, and I kind of just want to be ready for it and ready for the challenge of helping to realize what that next piece of art is.
Thank you one more time for sharing your vision of not only sound but also visuals. This is not an album of classic rock remixes. This is fresh, original, beautiful art. It definitely is a display of what can be done with immersive audio and blending it, syncing it with beautiful visuals. I want to remind everyone how they can get a copy of this. I'm going to link everyone to your website and immersiveaudioalbum.com. This is the CD Blu-ray version. You can also download it, and that download comes with a bonus like introduction video from Justin, and it's also streaming. Justin, how do you envision viewers and listeners in enjoying this album at its fullest? What's the ultimate experience in your opinion?
I think that the fullest is the Blu-ray, and that's because, we put it on, we have the opportunity for full Dolby True HD, the high-res stereo masters are on there, Auro 3D is on there, so sonically it represents the highest potential, as well as the visuals. So it just seamlessly comes up, but you can also, select tracks if you want, but if you just let it play, basically it plays as the art that I intended. Um, with all the scalability that we appreciate from these object-based formats. And then the physical package. I mean, I too, as you are, and I think many of your fans, if not everybody, I'm a I'm a fan of just holding a record and getting a chance to read the liner notes. And I did my best within the page limitations of trying to tell that story, but also show the photos of folks and make sure that the crediting is there because sure, I'm at the front of this thing, but I celebrate everybody else involved. It takes a village, right? It really does, and I want people to know who those people are. I want them to go look those people up and find out who these artists are, or maybe that instrument that they didn't know. Now they can, see what it is. I did also put the CD in there because, the stereo version is not a down mix. It's a completely separate stereo production. I took the sessions and I just started from scratch in stereo. in order for me to be able to make sure that the intent of the music and that feeling, right, that feeling of immersion that is the sort of core emotional goal, the fold downs didn't work at all. So I really realized I was like, nope, when you want this to fit in two channels, there are different decisions that need to be made. At no point do I compare them to each other, even as an engineer, even as a mastering engineer, Michael Romanowski, we talked about it. I was like, I just want to make the immersive version. There's no question that that is the version. But from a stereo standpoint, for radio and social media and YouTube, and if someone, doesn't have a Blu-ray player or an immersive system, I don't want the music, I don't want the technology to be a limitation to accessing the art. So from that perspective, I also believe that if someone's listening on streaming or they're listening to binaural on headphones, I just hope that the music speaks to them most of all. But if they're so inclined, the Blu-ray to me is number one.
Justin, thanks for sharing this album with all of us and for your time on the channel today. It is rare that an immersive album makes this big of an impact on me. I just couldn't wait to share it with Life and Surround viewers. I hope that everyone watching support Justin in one way or another. Stream the album, pick up the physical copy, download it, enjoy it, spread the word about it, leave comments, and don't forget, if you like what I do, to like this video, subscribe, leave comments. It helps this channel help artists like Justin, and this is what I love to do with this channel, is to bring something fresh and new and beautiful and artistic and meaningful to others, so that you may not have heard about it except for this, and so that just makes me very happy. That's the mission of why I'm here. So I appreciate you, Justin. I appreciate this album. I appreciate everyone watching, and until next time, live life in surround.